Carlos Nelson with Cascade Media Group. And tonight we're going to be talking a little bit of politics with the president of Freedom Inc. That is our local political organization that has represented the people of color community. I stopped using black. That doesn't really, but people of color uh, in the political realm. I moved here in 1978, and that was the first time I even got involved in politics behind Freedom Inc. And I learned a whole lot about this community because the people that were making moves in the black movement from a policy and a economic standpoint, really that charge was led by Freedom Inc. I have my differences with Freedom Inc., but at the same time, uh, they have represented us. And without further ado, I consider him one of my personal friends because we came up together in our different professional careers over 30 years ago. And now he sits at basically the head of Freedom Inc. He has his board, Mr. Uh, Rodney Bland.
Hey, brother, my friend, how are you?
It's all good, Rodney. Let's get right down to the nitty gritty. Tell our audience a little bit about uh, this past 2024, what you felt took place, and what does the future look like on the political landscape and uh, on us coming together. Uh, I'm with block voting and group economics to improve our policy positions and our economic position. The floor is yours.
So, what I would say to you is that thank you for allowing me to come and visit with you on the show. Great show, great outreach, great communication platform. But what I would say to you, Carlos, is that 2024 should have represented for us a sincere challenge to the political landscape of Kansas City, Missouri, and Jackson County as it sits. Starting with the April election in 2024 for the stadium's renewal tax and the debacle that went on with the county legislature and Frank White that led to not renewing the tax for the Royals and the Chiefs, including new stadium. Would you talk about economics and politics marrying each other? That was probably the largest economic marry that we have seen in quite a while since the airport. $2 billion, and you talk about the airport, and you talk about 95th and Bannister when he did the Bannister project. That was $2 billion also. So, and that was probably the largest two episodes of economic political will development in the state of Missouri. So when you look at that, and you look at how that, there was 5,000 jobs at the stadium on the line, a team, two teams. There was labor involved. There was an economic development plan that would have boosted the Eastern Jack corridor with hotels, restaurants, bars, maybe even a trolley, transport to the stadiums. It would have created an economic boom that we probably would have had in our coffers for 25 years. That failed due to, I think, a lot of different circumstantial arguments that were not communicated well. One of which everybody lied who was against the project, saying it was a property tax increase. It was never that. It was a renewal of the tax that we have been renewing for 40 years for I think last time we renewed it was under Catherine Shields' watch, when she's county executive. So that was the first launching of what I thought was a disaster toward economics and politics marrying. Then you go to the August election with the challenges we had there. Lucas Kuntz running for the Senate against Holly, and the disaster that happened with. He showed a good presence in August, but it was disastrous because they did not do a ground game as well as they should have. They did not invest into our communities the economic platforms about outreach, communications, platforms. So when I say investment, candidates that we endorse, issues we endorse, they have to invest with our community, not just with economic dollars, but also with job incentives, with contractor incentives, with development incentives. And not just when I talk about development, I'm talking about the legal, the real estate, the vendors,
All
all
parts,
of those, huh?
all parts of development from the ground up,
All parts from ground
just
up
like a
to
construction project, from the
the back office.
janitor to the architect. We
Yeah,
have people
the
that
back
are
office.
capable of
Right,
servicing in
right.
those areas, and they're not getting the business.
And that's what I look at economics and politics and marrying an investment of candidates or issues that impact our community. The problem is that I think that um, um, uh, that was successful in November in that Melissa Johnson is now the prosecutor of Jackson County. She has a budget. She has a staff of 140 people. I didn't know that. But she also controls combat, which is about 26 to 30 million dollars a year spent in our communities or across the communities.
Can I interrupt
Um,
you on that for a
yeah,
second? So
yeah.
I was dismayed that I don't know how much money was spent on her campaign. It was alleged uh, at least 500,000.
No,
And where I sit with the only black-owned digital media company, black candidates, and what have you, not one dime was spent with us.
no, that's not true. Her camp, I know very well. We met with several of us met with Lisa Johnson and her team every Saturday from June 15th to November election, every Saturday for 2.5 hours, helping her with her campaign at Freedom offices. So I can tell you that her campaign raised about 100 and maybe $40,000.
I'm not saying
Now,
her what Freedom did. I'm talking about outside sources that contributed to her overall campaign. And
no, her overall campaign raised about $140,000. Now, Gromowski's campaign raised $750,000, and he came almost in third place. So, um, Lisa Johnson's campaign overall and all its contributors raised about $148,000. You can go to Missouri Ethics Commission and you can look on the Ethics Commission reports, reportables, and campaign expenditures and determine what that number really is. But I think it's about
but I
$148,000.
wouldn't quibble
So
with that. I would say that with us having the only black-owned digital media company, $2 should have been spent with us. But that's
well,
that's
I
that's
agree.
spilt milk.
I agree. But we know, Carlos, when you talk about campaign expenditures, people, I think, don't look at the totality of a campaign because outside of the media side, the platform side of what you do, the radio side, what some folks do, the mailings, everybody wants to do the mailings. So they do the mailings, for a countywide, for instance, for Melissa, a countywide strategic target campaign, let's say it's 40,000 mailings. That cost her about $55,000
That's
just
what
do a
it's up
mailing.
to now.
Man, because of the
I know you
stamps,
know.
stamps,
I know you.
stamps are going up, designers are going up, artwork's going up, the postage service is going up, the mailing, the printing, the ink is going up. tremendously. Paper has gone up tremendously. Where it might have been $1.85 a sheet, now it's like $1.75 a sheet for one sheet of paper, and you get 3 or 4 placards out of it. So there's a lot of cost added to all of this weight. What I'm disappointed in the Kamala Harris campaign and the Louis Coons campaign, one, Kamala Harris and her people never came to Kansas City or St. Louis, never. And the second part of that is same thing that Hillary Clinton did while she lost so bad in Missouri. And the second thing is that Coons could never get enough money contributed to his campaign. They ended up raising like $15-17 million, as opposed to Holly raised almost $80 million in his campaign. But the investments that we should be making in your platforms, for instance, can't be made because there's no money. They don't give us any money to run a sufficient campaign. I didn't even do radio this time, in August or November, because I do a radio spot at 3 different radio shops, KPRS.
See, I'm not a prize.
$5,000.
What?
Yeah, man. Getting money because Missouri ethics and the Republican parties in Missouri changed all of the rules for how you contribute to campaigns. Back in the day, you could get money from candidates, you could get money from PACs, unions, businesses, corporations, LLCs. Now, Freedom can only get money PAC to PAC. We can't get any money from candidates, direct or indirect, can't get any money from federal candidates at all to Freedom. We can't get any money from candidates, corporations. We get money from LLCs that are managed and not a sub S corporation. It can't be an S or C corporation. It can be an LLC managed corporation. So there's always restrictions they put on place because they were trying to disrupt the unions, and so that's what the whole Republicans were doing. So now we can't even in interviewing people. We can't. The nominating committee of Freedom Inc. can't even mention contributions or campaign donations. No, it's illegal.
I'm glad that we're having this talk because I think more of our community really needs to know. Like I told you when I said I didn't know, but it was said that they campaign had 500,000. So I wouldn't. Yeah, again, having accurate information is major. And I wouldn't. Now that you said that to me, I would never mention that part of my conversation that I've had in the past. Information applied is power.
Yeah, the problem is in a campaign like Lisa Johnson, not only did she have to do mailings, targeted mailings, she had to do 2 or 3 of those drops countywide. Then she had to also pay for advertisement in papers and newspapers and Kansas City Call, Kansas City Globe, Dos Mundos, Kansas City Star, all those periodicals, Voice, whatever else she did. Then she also had to pay for campaign workers, people to be on the poll workers. There were 100.
I remember when we used to do it. I think they
for free.
They gave us our lunches, and because we were involved in the community, that money didn't come in until late in the picture, far as I know. Because I used to be out there. Carol Cole had me with the damn stapler, stapling the polls with the Freedom and all of that. And you did it, and you was energized when you did it.
And you also had folks that helped in the campaigns that sometimes got benefit of suggestive conversations about contracts, opportunity, minority inclusion, whatever level that was in the race. But we can't talk about campaign contributions from candidates. We can't talk about contracts. We can't talk about negotiate any of that. And Melissa Johnson had to cover 114 polls on election day for 13 hours. There are not enough volunteers, even in her large family, to cover polls. Then you got to feed them. So for Freedom to operate election day activities and pay poll workers and pay and buy food and do all the water and all that stuff for 13-hour candidates, for 13-hour poll workers, it costs about $20,000 for one day.
I would have thought
operates.
It a little more, but I don't, again, I haven't looked at the figures.
That's just one day. That's just one day. And now we've expanded into the 24th ward, and now we have 2 polls in Grandview and 2 polls in Raytown. So that number is probably about 27,000, I think it was, at the end of the day, election day. And that's it. So you got all these covered costs that you got to manipulate and use. I think Lisa Johnson's team did a wonderful job. We helped fill some of those gaps she had. Lucas Combs, I tried to get him to get more money to invest in our community. He promised, as most of the statewide candidates promised, and nothing happened. You had candidates running statewide office, Attorney General, Secretary of State, Richard Brown, Lieutenant Governor. They didn't give us one dime to run a campaign in our community on their behalf. So I actually cut people out of our literature because I think that if they're not going to contribute to our effort to get their name into our community and get support for our community, we shouldn't be supporting them.
That's right.
So my mantra has changed because I don't think somebody not willing to get involved with us at every level and be mindful of all the restrictions we have now, and Missouri Ethics Commission, all the rules they have put in place on top of us, with the Clean Missouri Act that everybody in the state of Missouri passed, restricting, even lobbyists. They put all that stuff in the lobbyists, the PACs, the organizations, to restrict us from having access. So, like, I'm a lobbyist in Missouri for several clients. I can't spend $1 on them on anything. I can't buy them a cup of coffee because Missouri Ethics Commission says I can't do that. It's penalty. It's a huge penalty if I do. So
well, I know it's not just a penalty from my being here in Kansas City.
Right.
They just be waiting for Black officials to cross any kind of line so that they can put some charges on them. That's what I've seen in 30 years.
And I'm going to tell you what the differences are, is that now is more and more acute. When you leave state government as a elected official, you can't go back and lobby the legislature for 2 years, 2-year ban. So Republicans got wise about that, and guess what they do? When those state reps, state senators leave state government and termed out the term limits, they go and form an LLC. And the Republican National Party,
LLC,
the Republican National Party would give some of those guys $1 million put in their coffers, and they sit for 2 years. But they infuse those dollars in all those little small state races, state house races, and state senate races. We had a candidate in Lee Summit who had a Democrat who had a candidate, Republican candidacy, that spent $238,000 for a state rep seat. He lost.
And yeah, that's like them spending all that money on a school board seat. It's more behind this. And I'm more like, I'm Pan-Africanist. And Malcolm said, we are not outnumbered, we are out organized. And that is what I'm hoping the conversation with you and other Black leadership, that we can get organized, but we need a central meeting place to get information and dispense information. And I do believe that we have the only, it's not like I'm saying there are others. If you can show me another Black-owned digital media company that can perform the services that Cascade Media Group performs for people of color, not just here in Kansas City, around the globe, then I say, let's use them. But we've got to start understanding our strength is in unity. And that can't just be in words. You've got to be able to quantify and say, hey, this message is getting out to them and they're responding. But what you were saying, all this money that it took to get Melissa in office or anybody in office, take half that much if our community was going to a central location and we were all in sync. And when you spent money outside the community, it would be targeted with their networks. They own 100% of all forms of communications. And until we really understand that freedom was born because we didn't have political representation. We don't have representation really on the media side. We need all of these publications, the last page, the voice, the call, or whatever. But what's most important is to be able to communicate like that. And Cascade Media Company is the only, not one, the only one that is capable of delivering that service to our overall community. And I'm asking you as president.
Let me put a pin right, Mike. I can extend this to 7:00. I sent a text to my person and they said, fine. But let me just say this to you, if you have time.
No, that's the whole thing. We own the network. We got all the time in the damn world.
Okay. Let me say this to you, Carlos. One of the things that is troublesome to me, because, we got KPRS, KPRT, Next Page, Call, Globe. We partner with Dos Mundos, Northeast News, all these, The Voice, all these different periodicals that now go to, the scan codes to get information. But one of the things that is difficult is getting folks, candidates, or issues, their funders to put money in the coffers so I can go out and hire you to do our platform stuff. Because they don't think that's of value. They don't think radio in our community is of value. So part of my budget process, when I put together a campaign budget, I got a campaign committee of experienced committee people, and Kim Bacchus and Miss Hasley and others. Barbara's on that committee, Keith Brown, other folks, and we put together a campaign budget, and we always look to get $5,000 for each one of the radio stations. I've even put money in there for Cascade. Jimmy Watson and I worked on that.
The only time we ever got money from Freedom, I'll tell you, you put it in, and it was $1,500, and I give you. I know you were the only one.
I'm the one who did
put your pistol out? Because
so part of
we pushed it through.
Yeah, so part of that is, for me, is to push in more to all the communication pieces, because that's what these folks do. They bombard the mailboxes. I got, in the August primary, I probably had 30 pieces of mail weekly from all the candidates, all the different issues. We can't do that because we don't have enough resources. I'm not going to spend Freedom's money on a campaign that's not our campaign. We marry campaigns to push them out.
But this is, let me cut you off on that. This is where I'm at on that. We have Melissa Robinson, the Shaw lady, and others. I offered them their own shows at least once a week or every other week to come on and tell the community what they're doing and all of that. Nada. So I'm not giving them no excuses about money. The same thing with our community organizations. I have offered them, come on our community organization tab at least 2 times a month, bi-weekly, or once a month to tell our community what you're doing in our organization and bring more people to the network. Do you think that they would do any of that? So
Well,
that's what
you're asking them to do that, but they have a limited campaign exposure. I mean,
but it's
I
free.
don't know what
It's
you asked them.
free.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's
I
what I
know that.
said. All
Yeah.
of this stuff. Hold it. You look at Cascade Sports. We've been covering the Kansas City School District and sports in general since '08. Show me when they spent 1 quarter with us. When nobody was covering our schools. It's just, to me, it's a lack of leadership. It's a inability for the people that are in power. Because I've talked to Barbara Washington. Barbara was uh, saying to me about things that she had done with the archives and different ones. And I'm all with that. But at the end of the day, the most important thing that anybody that's in power, elected or any other kind of way, is to have control over communications. And anyone that is saying the call, the voice, or these other things, they are out of touch. And me, I don't think they should be in a leadership position. And as I said, all you have to do is look. Trump is surrounded by Bezos, who should have uh, uh, endorsed Kamala Harris. First time in the history of the damn paper. You got Zuckerberg right there, and you got Musk. They own some of the most powerful media platforms on the planet. And you mean to tell me my black leadership don't understand that they really need to be sitting in my office right now, all of them, to say, this is how we plan to unveil our plans to our community?
Well, I can tell you, Carlos, there's probably a misconception of what that means, and probably a miscommunication, because I didn't know that you had free
Free.
communication tabs. I did not know that. Now
All
that I do,
has been free. Or if one, let
I
me
didn't
say
know.
this, if one just goes to the network, we have a new CEO. And when he came on board and he looked at the company, he says, how do you make your money? There's no advertisement. Everything is free. I said, everything is free that you've seen on our network. And your community don't. It's like, again, my personality, I feel, is so strong that people deal with the personality more than they deal with the substance. And I think I said to you, I don't
Yeah.
believe over the last 30 years that it's been friendship, kinship, and politics. That's the only way you get ahead in America and really on the planet right now. And uh, having the ability to produce something that has worth has nothing to do with the equation. And that's no different where I'm death on all of these consultants in our community, black consultants talking about 50, 60, $70,000. They're gonna tell you how to build a business and they never even had a business. That's what you got going on in our community. And in our community, you say we don't have those resources. We have those resources that go into the wrong people. You know it,
Yeah.
I know it. And then
Yeah.
when I point it out, that's when it's like that Nelson, you goddamn right, Nelson. And I tell them all, if you can put me out of business, put me out of business. But I built everything that I do on my own merit. And I did not get in the system because the system is the financial system. Who feeds you is who your loyalty is, no matter what is coming out your mouth. And you want to lie to each other, playing games instead of saying, we need to cut this out, we need to come together, and we need to have people that are smarter than us in different fields figure this thing out, and then we need to go full steam ahead. Because I'm going back to when I come here in Freedom Inc. I had never seen nothing like Freedom Inc. And boy, when that election came, I didn't know who the hell was running or what. I got that gold and black ballot, and I went down that sucker. I'm serious. People were saying, who the hell is this? What is this? But you knew Freedom spoke for you, and you knew that if those measures passed, it was going to be a trickle down. And it's not a trickle down now.
And cause, in all fairness, that's absolutely correct. But since 2014, the world of politics and economics in Kansas City, Missouri, in the state of Missouri, has dramatically changed. And it got worse in 2018 when they passed that, that Clean Missouri Act. It wiped away any incentive that was possible in the layers of politics to barter, trade, discuss, or activate on anything. And plus you had them fighting the Republicans in the state of Missouri and in different sectors, fighting the right to work issue, the union buster issue. Then they had also, you had to fight with conflict of interest. So, as a clear example, back when Charles Hasley, for those folks who don't know Charles Hasley, he was one of the most powerful black men in city council government for 20-something. They changed the charter after 100 years.
Would not back down.
They changed the charter of Kansas City, Missouri, because he went to jail for $2,500 tax issue for 30 days, and he came back to the community and won re-election. And he was the most powerful man in City Hall because he chaired Plans and Zoning, which had all the development across the city. And they could not get rid of him, so they changed the charter to get rid of him. And so back in the day, you call a city council member like Charles or Bobby Hernandez or Mark Sharp or John Sharp and say, hey, my water's off. They would call the department manager and say, cut his water on. I don't care if the bill's $3,000. Cut his water on, work it out with that family. Now, city council members are prohibited by the conflict of interest laws that have been passed in the city municipal charters. They can't do that. They can't call a manager and tell them, go do that. They can't do it anymore.
What I want you to do. I'm giving you 3 minutes to sum up.
Okay. Well, I would tell you that the first thing we got to do, in my limited opinion, is understand the measures and the candidacies that come before the community to select. And in that, I mean, when I was out doing some canvassing just recently for a candidate to get their petitions for a school board race, when I was in the other community over in Brookside at one of their Apple Marts or Price Chopper, when I asked folks to sign a petition, you know what they said to me? Who's the candidate? Can I get information about the candidate? Can I Google them? When I go to our black community, they won't even sign it. They're like, I don't want to sign anything. I don't want to do that. We've got to educate, do a better job, I think, in Freedom, educating the community about what's at stake. And I think also our community is not voting. Our wards, our precincts are not voting. I tell them all the time at Eggs Enlightenment, other things I go to, Black Agenda Group, I don't care if you don't vote for Freedom ballot. Go vote. Just go vote, because when you vote, you raise the numbers up in our community. We get more influence and more impact. But our community, the Black Wards of Freedom, the Grandview wards and the Raytown wards, they don't turn out to vote. I'll show you an example. 8th Ward over in across Trusta state line, about 45th Street to about 75th Street. That 8th Ward is the highest turnout vote in the city, in the county, because they vote anywhere from 8 to 20% every election. Our wards, 3rd Ward, September Ward, they're voting at 4 to 6.
Let us make a pact because
let me just finish about 1 minute. I think we have to do a better job of all of us coming together and stop fighting over petty issues, petty personalities, and come together on a collective and find out what the best alternatives are for our elections. Because until we stop and put aside our indifferences, we can never find the meat on the bone of the economics that propel our community. I mean, we are suffering through possibly, if the Chiefs or Royals leave our county, we're going to lose about 10,000 jobs, vendor related and employment. I mean, if we don't build this jail, we're going to lose a lot of jobs. Unions, $400 million going to the bond. That's $400 million of jobs, construction, employment. And we're not doing enough to get our people out to make the change. If we came together, Carlos, and made a collective effort, put aside our petty personalities, and made the collective interest for the best of our community, we could control the city, the county, the state for our influence vote.
I understand that. That's perfect to leave this on. Those were some of the issues I was trying to bring forth when I was talking about Carol Cole. Hey, your family in general. Let me tell you this. I heard somebody say something about Murray Bland at one time. She had those gelatin shoes per se, and I was like, yeah, Negro, she is a soul sister, and she don't have to have red bottoms. She's out here promoting our issues, and she's not sitting behind a desk. So with that being said, I'm closing with this. When you invest in your community, you really are just investing in yourself. Good night.
This is brought to you by Kansas City Business Association, working to improve our community.